They say hot, does he mean it like in a sexually arousing kind of way?
It's a question I've been mulling over in my mind for a really long time.
Long time.
What are you guys drinking tonight? Are we drinking beverages? Because I have a beverage.
Yeah, it's been a while since I drank on a podcast.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
I do have a can of wine.
Nice.
Yeah.
A can of wine? Didn't know it came in cans.
They just now started putting them out in cans. It's pretty exciting. You can buy it for like $5. Like a can is, I think, equivalent to half a bottle.
Half a bottle.
Which I don't know if that's a lot or not a lot. I don't know. People at the party were telling me that's not a lot.
It's fair. It's like 2 servings, sort of.
The name of this house wine is Sangria, which I think is pretty fitting for this movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Sangria means blood. Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And with us this week, we have Aaron Zabriskie joining us.
Welcome.
Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, everyone.
And there you go, silent. You went silent that time.
I was waiting for the applause to finish.
It's a real tight ship we run around here.
Yeah. Right. Standing up on the airplane applauding right now with their earbuds. Sit down. Okay. We're talking minute 45 of Predator. You could call minute 45 the Pedro Martinez of minutes.
Handing over. Be tough to take him out now, too.
Hey, there's a baseball player I know.
Yeah.
Let me say everything I think I know about Pedro Martinez.
What do you know about Pedro?
He's a pitcher, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He was.
Red Sox, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I know.
That's all you need to know.
Is he really
Hall of
good
Famer now? I think he's a Hall of Famer now.
He is a Hall of Famer.
Hey,
he is
congratulations.
Really good.
Gracias, mi gente.
So there's your shout out, Pedro. All right, we're talking minute 45 of Predator. Minute 45 opens with Panchito asking Ana, ¿Qué pasó? And ends with the team moving out to find Hawkins' body.
Okay, we got a lot of dialogue here in this minute, but
a
lot of it is in Espanol.
Yeah, the first part is in Espanol between Ana y Panchito. But I wrote the lines in English because there's, some fluent speaking, and I wanted to not try to ruin that kind of talk.
I appreciated that. Yeah. So we're getting a little interrogation here, right?
Si, senor.
Si. We've got Pancho is kind of interrogating, yelling at Ana here, and he says it in Spanish, but you translated it. So for all of our listeners out there, in Espanol, he says, "What happened? What did you see? What happened?" And then Ana, in response, says, "It was, I don't know." And I like that he says, "Tell me, woman." However, what's the? Do you guys know that which line that is in Spanish?
Dice mujer.
Oh, there you go. And she gives the ominous response. I don't know what it was. The jungle took him.
¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué fue lo que viste? ¿Quién fue? Dime, mujer. ¿Quién fue? Dime.
La selva se lo llevó.
¿Qué?
No sé, no estoy segura, no sé.
And Pancho's like, ¿Qué?
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 And then she repeats herself, says, I don't know. And then Pancho turns to Dutch and she says, the jungle, it just came alive and took him.
She says the jungle, it just came alive and took him.
Well, I think we're missing a woman in here, as I recall. Doesn't he say, ¿Qué pasó, mujer?
That was carried over from last minute. Last minute he says, ¿Qué pasó, mujer? And then he says, mujer. And then we jump into the second part, which is,
Thank you.
¿Qué pasó?
Yeah.
How do you say, what did you see?
He says something like, ¿Qué viste? But okay. Hold on. Let me look again. He says it so fast. The dialogue is very fast in this scene.
It's very fast.
And that's interesting because there's a lot of debate on the internet about exactly what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And I must say, when I was a kid, I remember missing out on a lot of this and trying my rather rudimentary Spanish at the time to try to figure it out and missing large chunks of lines. So in fact, the line where she says, the jungle took him. That one, she says so fast that I completely missed it until much later on when I saw it again. When she says "La selva se lo llevo," she says that so fast that you often miss it. And so I was reading a bunch of forums where they're in a lot of disagreement about exactly what all these lines mean, and a lot of the times it's because I think people miss that line. They can't even hear what she says. So
and it seems like she does say something to the effect of the jungle came alive and took him. And then it's weird that Dillon says
bullshit. It's not what she said. What she said doesn't make any sense.
Now, what she said doesn't make any sense. That line makes sense to me,
right?
But it does seem like that's actually what she said. So
he's being really contrarian here, and we don't really know why.
Yeah, is he just trying to argue for the sake of arguing? I guess being a contrarian, or does he really not quite understand what she's saying? I don't know the answer.
I don't know, because it sounds like he's splitting hairs and saying that's not what she said. If she's saying the jungle took him, and then Panchito's saying the jungle came alive and took him, semantically speaking, right? She's not exactly saying what Panchito just said that she said. So I think Dillon is, I don't know, maybe misunderstanding her or really splitting what she's saying down to a really fundamental meaning and saying that's not what she said.
This whole thing reminds me of like if you have an argument with your significant other. That's not what she said. That's exactly what I said. That's not what I said.
It was how you said it.
It was your tone.
Yeah. I don't know. Aaron, what do you think? Why is Dillon giving this line reading if that it is what she said?
I think you guys are right. He's a jerk.
Wow, what a jerk.
What happened to you, Dillon? You used to be someone I could trust. Now he's an a-hole.
You used to be somebody I could trust. I woke up.
That was the part that he left out that he should have said immediately after that.
That was another question that came up when I was similarly looking up the lines, is why is he saying this when that is what she's saying? Because Panchito would have no reason to lie to the rest of the team. There's nothing that's very calming from that translation.
Yeah.
The jungle coming alive and taking him. That's a pretty terrifying take from an eyewitness to their man going down.
Yeah, and so then Dillon tries to turn the narrative to one that he's been pushing. Mm-hmm. And he says, I was going to ask you about this word. He says, look, those sappers have been following us ever since we left camp.
Oh, that's Panchito saying that.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Pancho says that to Dillon. And then Dillon says, they've been in front of us, man.
Look, those sappers have been following us ever since. They've been in front of us, man. This woman's just running up to him. This woman's been running right to him. They've been in front of him.
But I was going to ask you, do you know what a sapper is?
Yeah, I looked that up. In the U.S. Army, that would be the Army engineer who's supporting the frontline infantry. They're doing things like building bridges or setting demolitions or cutting demolitions.
They're doing the grunt work.
They're doing this, grunt work to basically prepare the battlefield or to prepare the route for soldiers. But when you're using it in this context, I believe they're colloquially using it to relate back to Vietnam and the Viet Cong commandos who would do a lot of that kind of breaching and demo work, but also just who are really good soldiers.
I would be a really bad sapper, I think. I would work for like 10 minutes and then like wander around and start shooting the shit with like another sapper.
Such hard work.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Digging trenches. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Aaron, do you have any sapper background?
Not me personally, but I will say that that was like just like you said, that was the Vietnam colloquialism. So every old Vietnam movie, they say that line. They say that word probably 100 times.
Sapper.
Sapper's in the wire.
Yeah. Oh! Just to give a little background, because I had to look it up. The term sapper is derived from the medieval soldiers who dug the trenches, aka the saps, to better ground the artillery during a siege. Yeah.
Deep roots.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice research.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so to round out this conversation, Dillon says, they've been in front of us, man. Pancho says, I should have wasted her at the camp. Dillon says, this woman's been running us right into him. So they're, again, trying to turn this back on Anna, put the blame on her, and still keeping up this bad theory that she's somehow involved in these gruesome killings. Yeah.
I think it's some good acting right here between the two veteran actors barking at each other. They're not really coming to different terms as much as they're just like you're saying, they're both kind of pinning the blame on Anna. I think it's showing some good fear in the soldiers right here because right, when you're caught off guard, you don't know the answer. It's really easy to resort to anger and confusion and just taking out on the people who are left standing.
It is good. This is one of the more dialogue heavy kind of little dramatic moments we get. And yeah, everyone does a really good job. Did you notice around second 6 or 7 of this minute that we get another little Tobias Fuke impression, but this time it's Dutch coming out of the trees?
No, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
I did not. You said at the 6 second mark or so?
6 or 7. It just kind of emerges.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a little bit of an aside, but I was just watching it again and noticed it.
Yeah, you kind of have that running thing that you notice about people emerging from bushes.
It becomes clear that like people have their marks and they're like starting scenes from different positions. It always tickles me when they start from like behind a leaf and then they come out.
And he is looking down as he does it, so it's almost as if he's looking for that mark on the ground.
Right. He does it real slow. Yeah.
The big difference in the script is that in the original script, we don't hear Anna telling Panchito what she saw. We just hear Dillon disagreeing with her. It just says, Anna speaks Spanish, and then Dillon says, no, that's wrong. And he also goes into a much longer accusation in the script. He says, it's obvious what's going on. She lured him out here so they could kill him, mutilate him like the others. This is all part of her act. She's been at it all day without much disagreement from Panchito, without as much arguing. But I like it with more of the back and forth because I think it really sells the characters' fear and their confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. They also, like we just described this conversation as going line by line, but really all these lines are kind of overlapping one another, and, which makes it kind of hard to like transcribe. But they do a really good job. I'm always impressed with actors and actresses when they can do that, when they can read their lines, say their lines to each other with all the right emotion, and they're overlapping one another kind of the way you would in a real argument. They do a really good job here with it, and it's very, very believable.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely made it hard to write down exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the subtitles in front of me, so I was listening to it over and over and again, trying to catch who was saying what.
All right. Anything else to add here before we move on to Dutch?
I just like Panchito's K in the middle of the exchange.
Okay?
Because if you're a fluent Spanish speaker and you hear something like her saying that the jungle, then you know right away that she's not trying to hoodwink the team. You know that she is trying to tell them exactly what she saw and what we saw for that half second. If it's our first time watching it, we're thinking like, was that the jungle? Was that like, what was that? Because it was our first sighting of invisible predator, the camouflaged.
Right.
So he had a good like, what?
Okay?
Like really, gay?
Okay?
Disbelieving what, but in Spanish. And we would be asking the same thing if we were understanding what she was saying.
Okay?
Yeah, you mentioned that you looked that up as kind of a movie trope.
Yeah, TV tropes listed as the big what?
Okay?
What?
I could only find a couple and think about a couple. One is when Leia is told that they're going to blow up Alderaan anyway, and she gives a good what?
What?
And another is one that's memed a lot, which is Vader when his TIE fighter is deflected in the trench run at the end of Star Wars, and he gives a what before he's sent off flying. And the last one is, hey, another flying around scene. It's Merlin in Top Gun when Maverick tells him what he's about to do, and Merlin says, "You're gonna do what?"
I'm bringing him in closer, Merlin. You're gonna do what?
Just a good little what that, and it'd be interesting to hear. I don't know. Do you have any good whats from your own experience, or
how about the mom in A Christmas Story when she finds out that
Ralphie,
when Ralphie says the F word and he said what in the car?
You know what your son just said?
No, what?
Do what he said. Ready?
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Aaron, you have any good whats?
What?
How about little John when he goes, what?
What?
Okay.
Okay!
That's a good what. That's probably the best what. Got a little space dust here in your honor, John.
Oh, Space Dust, the
Space
king of the
Dust.
beers.
Space
Yeah,
Dust
it's
It's a very lofty name.
yeah, it's fitting
see.
for Predator. He basically becomes Space Dust at the end.
We're all space dust, man.
Man.
Hey, man, time is a flat circle.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle.
All right, so we're moving on to the second part of the minute. When we have some real good Spielberg face, in my opinion. We have Dutch holding up his hand to Panchito and Dillon like a calming parent saying, Hold it! Hold it!
Hold it!
Yeah, stop arguing, kids.
Yeah, shut up! Why didn't they take his radio or his weapon? Why didn't she escape? Then Dillon's thinking about it. He looks up, realizes Hopper, Dutch. What? Zoom in on Dillon. They did the same thing to Jim Hopper. Oh, and then just a really good fast zoom in on Dutch. So we see the zoom to Dillon and we see the zoom to Dutch.
Yeah.
Dutch turns to the camera, looks, and then we see Dillon's face for half a second, then back to Dutch, and Dutch says, I want Hawkins' body found. Sweet pattern. Double back. 50 meters. Let's go. And then the whole rest of the team, including Billy, Blaine, and Mac, picking up their weapons and moving out to find Hawkins' body. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they can do this.
John, that was very impressive. Did you audition for this movie?
Did I? When I was 7 years old, 6 years old. Yeah, they just said too young.
Yeah.
This is like the Spielbergian. Also kind of brings to mind like Paul Thomas Anderson movies. He does a lot of these like kind of quick zooms on faces. And yeah, you get a couple right in succession here. Dillon's is a little less dramatic, but then Dutch's, it's like quick zoom, and we get Arnold's confused face there, kind of looking back. Yeah, it's really effective. It's good.
It's a really good reminder for us, the audience, because there are so many things that John McTiernan, I feel, does at the beginning or in the middle, then comes right back to it towards the end, or at least here in the second act. And it's good for us to see the team realizing it. I don't know. It's always, I feel like, I don't know. I'm much more of a fan of movies where the characters are learning things and they're aware of things. They're not just like unawares and caught with their proverbial pants down all the time. Like, oh, what happened? Like we weren't ready. And in this case, like the team knows something's going on. They know something's afoot. It's not just some accident or like and a lot of them might be thinking this isn't a normal enemy because they are leaving behind all of Hawkins' gear, and it didn't. Whatever killed Hawkins didn't harm Anna. So they're starting to realize something else is going on too, which is a nice way to do it, because I feel like it puts us, the audience, on the same level as the team. The team is like maybe a little bit less aware of what we are with the predator hunting them, but not that much behind us.
Yeah, and so we're to believe here that they all sort of have a realization, at least Dutch does, that, oh shit, Hawkins' body is probably in the same state that Hopper was.
Why didn't they take his radio or his weapon? Why didn't she escape? Hopper. What?
What?
They did the same thing to Jim Hopper.
And so he wants to go find the rest of that lasagna and find the rest of Hawkins.
R.I.P., buddy.
Oh, R.I.P. I was to say, this is an all-team minute, right? We get everybody in here.
This is an all what's left of the team minute, yes.
Right.
Which I don't think I'm going to be counting anymore. So
well,
I think
blood is on his face, so maybe he's
all right.
there.
I'll allow it. Lasagna's on the ground. That counts. Jeez.
That's kind of this minute. This whole minute is this conversation, a little bit of an epiphany by the team, and that really kind of brings us to a close. I know you had some notes here about the score in this section.
Yeah, the score is It's replaying some strings that we've heard in the past. These aren't the same. This isn't a callback to the strings we've heard, like when the tripwire is rack focused on. This is really a callback to the strings we first heard when we saw the Green Beret skin bodies with Jim Hopper hanging up a long time ago, like in the late teen minutes. Just bodies. So this is it's a very, I don't know, specific musical moment. It's this tone. I can't do it, but I would put these back to back, where the late teens music moment is more like discovering something. It's not as suspenseful.
Yeah.
It's more like kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark discovering something.
Yeah.
Whereas this is I feel much more mysterious. It's darker, but it's that same step up and step down. I really don't have the musical language to explain that. But when you hear these things, you know, oh, wow, it sounds like the same kind of track, just a little bit darker and more serious this time.
It's more
around.
horror, right? It's
more horror.
It brings to mind more of a horror sensibility. And at the very end of the minute here, when they start to move, we jump back into kind of that jungle trek, somewhat subdued, but when they start moving, that jungle trek music kind of kicks in.
Yeah, it's just more more lower, bassier.
Yeah.
Guttural. Yeah.
I think that brings us to the end of the minute. Did you guys have any other bits to add about what we see here?
I really liked how we see the team, I think as a bit of foreshadowing, start to have this moment where they're really unraveled, where it's just Pancho and Dillon arguing and not really anything productive happening. But then Arnold pulls them all back in, just gives them a plan and something to do, so that they're all just sitting around arguing. I'm glad that they didn't just go straight for the team completely pulling itself apart at this point in the movie, which is something I've seen in especially horror movies where they make a point of showing how like the protagonists are just completely useless because they become so bewildered or overwhelmed, and then they become kind of like fodder. Whereas I like the fact that this movie tries to maintain that they're still like soldiers that aren't just going to be taken out because they're so useless.
Yeah, you still get the sense that they're going to work together, right? Even though they're in a stressful situation, one of their team members has been killed. They have this unknowable force that's doing these things to them, and they're still trying to maintain what semblance of organization and logic that they can, just using the training that they've had. And you're right, like if this was a slasher flick or something, everyone would just panic and run off in different directions, and then everyone would just get killed systematically. Right. Yeah. And of course we're still going to get deaths here, but
Right.
it's more orderly, and there's an attempt by the team to try to work together.
Well, it certainly makes it more satisfying as far as like confrontation goes, where it's not just one side being completely overwhelmed. At least you see them putting up a fight.
And it gives you more to root for.
Yeah.
You know, like anytime I see a film like this where you get a little more ingenuity, a little more cooperation from the group, like that gives you more to root for. Like you get invested in that. So they do a good job here.
Yeah, I feel like Dillon does a really good job basically joining the team here when it seems to like be at least right here like a first crack in this contrarianness that he's been carrying with him when he's like letting the team know we saw this earlier in the movie. You guys don't remember that scene where he found all the skin bodies and now is like acting really clueless, and now he's dropping that facade. Like he told Dutch in the camp when Dutch threw him against the wall and said, "You set us up."
Is that how we said it?
Now
That was more like,
you set us up.
You set us up. It's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit. But I really like Dillon's realization here. Just putting him back into that team mode, into that soldiering mode, tells me that maybe there's hope for this character, whether he makes it out or not. That right, he's going to end this mission one way or the other on the right side, and not on just the betrayal side, straight betrayal side. But we don't know. I mean, Dillon doesn't know how right he is when he says they did the same thing to Jim Hopper. They have no idea, like, if the Predator end up skinning Hawkins, which, spoiler alert, he maybe did.
Maybe.
And the team never finds out. But Dillon is really showing some prophecy here, a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will talk about this in the next couple of minutes as we, I think, have another confrontation with the Predator. But even though Dutch is looking out for the team and he wants Hawkins' body found, he is making that classic horror movie blunder by saying 50 meters. Let's go. He's splitting up the team, which, if you ever watch a horror movie, that's the first mistake, and it's
bad news.
It's usually bad news bears for those who split up.
Stick together. Find the girl that's the most innocent, who hasn't had sex or had been drinking. Stick with her, because she's the one that's going to make it the longest.
We thought that was Hawkins.
Yeah, that's true. Damn it.
But on the other hand,
Hawkins was the final girl. She went first. Or he went first.
But on the other hand, Hopper's team all tried to stay together. Didn't work out so good. They basically, it seems like maybe they just can't win.
Yeah, we can't win this.
But maybe they can get even.
All right, Dillon.
I may have seen this movie before.
What? Oh, I thought this was
I'm
your
not
first time.
100% sure what's going to happen next.
I've never seen it. I'm just watching it 1 minute at a time, 1 week at a time.
Just like the fans.
That would be an insane way to watch a film.
Yeah. So anything else to add for minute 45?
I think we nailed it.
All right. Well, let's talk recommends for the week. We're talking whatever you're listening to or watching or reading or wearing or applying as topical medication, possibly.
What?
we have a doctor on the program.
Wait, I got to talk about my own stuff, though?
What would you be recommending? Does it itch? Does it burn?
I got the cream, man. I got a rash, man.
No, my job is to tell other people what to apply. I don't do the applying.
Perfect. That's what recommendations are all about, Aaron. So
Sure.
why don't you start us off? What do you have to recommend this week?
What are you applying to me?
Well, okay. I had a kidney stone recently, and unlike the previous kidney stones I had, this one did not evacuate on its own.
No.
Oh, no.
They didn't have to surgically open your dick, did they?
No.
Okay, thank God.
In fact, that's not really a procedure. So if anyone tells me they're going to do that, that's a problem. Surgically opening the dick is not.
They don't do
That's
that?
not something that's done. No. There'd be almost no indications for that.
That would be
Maybe if you had a urethral foreign body that you had no other way of getting out, that would be something you might have to do.
Oh, I don't want to think about this.
I'd be a terrible doctor.
Yeah.
You guys, we gotta just open the dick. Come on.
No.
Hey, wait, the problem with your kidney? Open the dick.
Open the dick.
No. The problem's up here.
Fine, just open the dick. That's what we have to do.
Just don't talk back to me. Who's the doctor here? Are you a doctor? Maybe.
Aaron, are you like a backseat doctor? You telling them no, use that scalpel.
No,
use
so
that
in fact, I'm
instead.
glad you said that. So here's what my recommendation was going to be. I was given a fantastic cocktail of medications, including one that I specifically requested that made the experience quite enjoyable because I have zero memory of it.
Whoa!
Zero memory. I highly recommend it. You don't need to remember any of that.
Heroin?
Heroin, no, would not do that. Heroin wouldn't wipe your memory.
That's true.
So there's a class of medications called benzodiazepines that have an effect very similar to alcohol. Mm-hmm. So much like if you get drunk enough on alcohol, you will start to completely forget what's going on. There are medicines that will get you there much faster.
Oh.
So if I had my choice, maybe getting drunk would have been more fun, but that would have interfered with other aspects of the operation. So if you were going to undergo an operation or procedure, I might recommend requesting a benzodiazepine on board so you do not remember any of it. Because the last thing you want to do is have this horrible memory of the terrible things that happen to you when you're undergoing an operation.
I'm opening your dick.
Wait, how do you know you really had it then?
That's a good point. I did go on eBay and look to see if there were any new kidneys for sale.
That's my kidney. How would you know?
Exactly.
Be honest.
I recognize
it all looks like lasagna.
Wow, that's one of the most unique recommends we've
That's
had
a very
so far.
specific recommendation. I just thought you might
Up
want
there
to
with
talk about
John's red flower. Yeah.
it. At first,
Yeah.
the guy said he wasn't going to do it. He said he didn't think it was necessary. And I said, no, I don't want to remember any of this.
So I can take it right before my 6th period, so I can just forget that even happened.
They were great.
Not a bad idea.
Always. All right, Jeff, recommend. What do you have?
All right. Well, I'm gonna go back to film here. I have a broader recommend followed by a more specific, all kind of centered around the same thing. My recommend is Scott Adkins.
Scott? Oh yeah, Scott Adkins.
Scott Adkins, the actor, stuntman, leading man extraordinaire that you can find in a vast array of direct-to-video action films.
DTV.
I love myself an occasional DTV.
DTV.
Some of them are real bad, but there's just something fun about seeing a movie made where you can tell they took 90% of their budget and spent it on 3 action sequences and then filled in the rest with like garbage dialogue. However, Scott Adkins movies are like a step up. I'd say Scott Adkins DTV action flicks are at the upper tier of the DTV world. And if you enjoy these types of movies, I highly recommend just looking at his filmography and finding some, like, the titles themselves are just great. Like, he did Hard Target 2, which I think is streaming on Netflix, or at least it was. American Assassin, Accident Man, The Debt Collector, No Surrender. These are all great.
Ninja 2. Shadow of a Tear.
Yes.
I love that one.
The one that I watched recently that I actually think is actually a good flick. Like, it's a good action movie with a good story. It's called Avengement.
Avenge
It just came out. It's his latest movie released this year, and it's actually really good. He plays a guy who is sort of wrapped up in his brother is into organized crime, and he gets kind of wrapped up into his brother's affairs, and he's somewhat of an innocent player in all of this. And he gets, long story short, I won't give away the details, but he ends up going to jail in a bungled operation. And in jail, he becomes like a hardened badass whose mind gets turned to only one thing, which is revenge on his brother, on his brother and all the other people that wronged him.
Is avengement a word?
I don't think so. I think it was made up for the title of this movie. But it's actually done in kind of a cool structural way. The movie is told in a series of flashbacks, and which sounds kind of tropey, but it's actually done very well. And Scott Adkins is really good in it. He like has an accent the whole time, but he totally like an English or excuse me, I think it's like a Scottish accent.
Well, he is English.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's a really good actor then, because he always has an American accent in most of his movies.
Well, except for Debt Collector, he was going for, I don't know, Australian maybe?
It's a little ambiguous, isn't it? Okay, this makes a lot more sense then.
He basically took the mantle. He took the JCVD mantle without all the charisma.
I mean, try to count them up between 2001 and.
Yep.
I can't count them all right here, but if you look at his IMDb actor credits, yeah, He makes like 5 movies a year,
Yeah.
and just pumps these out. And some of them are shit, but some of them are pretty good.
By some of them, I'm going to assume that you mean all of them.
Okay, a lot of them are shit. Some of them are worth watching. Avengement.
You know what? I speak too harshly on him. He's got these supporting roles in actually some pretty darn good movies here. I'm surprised.
He is like JCVD, like he's a martial artist, so he's really good in the action sequences, the fight scenes. But no, check out Avengement. It's actually I enjoyed it a lot. I wasn't expecting much, and it was super fun, and I thought pretty well done. So that's my recommend.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. I was just looking at his IMDb. In Eliminators, his name is Martin Parker, and in the next year, he makes a movie called Savage Dog, and his name is Martin Tillman. So he must look like a Martin to the producers.
McDermott? Or
Dermot Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney.
Played a character named Kit McDermott.
Remember, Dillon McDermott was in The Practice, and Dermot Mulroney was in a movie called Staying Together, where he played a character named Kit McDermott.
Oh, that's so good.
Favorite thing in the whole world.
Okay, I'm going to recommend a podcast called Art of the Score, in which 3 Australian composers / musicians from the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra analyze movie and video game scores, although they've done, I think, 26 movie episodes and 1 video game score. My favorite so far was the 3-parter they did on the original Star Wars score.
Shocking.
What? But they've also analyzed movies like 1989 Batman, Empire Strikes Back, the Blade Runner movies, so 1980s Blade Runner and the 2049 Blade Runner.
Some good scores right there, yeah.
Vertigo, Raiders of the Lost Ark. They'll talk about the roots of the different soundtracks, like how are they inspired, what were the temp tracks they used for inspiration, what are the different character themes we hear throughout the movies, and then when do those come back? How are they borrowing from other scores? And probably another favorite of mine besides the Star Wars one was the Back to the Future talk, because not only do they talk to the score of Back to the Future, but it's composed by Alan Silvestri, so they'll talk about Predator for about 15 seconds, which is really exciting to hear the Predator soundtrack played like a little bit on that show, and then they'll make the similarities on that episode between the team theme, the main theme from Predator, the and the Back to the Future scene in which the Libyans are chasing down Marty with a rocket launcher.
See if you bastards can do 90.
In the parking lot of the Twin Pines Mall. They've been out for about 2.5 they've been releasing episodes for about 2.5 years, but they've only released about every month an episode. It's really easy to catch up, but that means that you're waiting then for the next episode. So they really know what they're talking about. They're talking music all the time, which inspired me to look at the music and see where we heard it before for this episode. And I would love to hear their take on some of the tracks for Predator. Maybe I'll reach out with a little Facebook message and say, do you have like a quick minute to tell me what you think about the Predator score, or roots there of the different tracks, or any themes or motifs.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, check it out. It's called Art of the Score. Art of the Score. Nice. And hey, thanks. Now we talk about where do we find our illustrious co-host and guest. Aaron, where can people find you?
Arkansas.
All right.
Arkansas.
So go to Arkansas and try not to forget the route, because you might be diazepamines there. You don't want to.
Oh yeah. Wandering around in a few.
You know what? People don't find me. I find them. Okay.
Okay. So Aaron will not be found, but he will find you.
I will find you.
Jeff, where can people find you? Or are you going to find them too?
I will find you.
Oh, no. I'm sitting in my house watching Scott Adkins movies. You can find me on Twitter. I'm capital K Carl _ capital H Hungus 314.
My name is Carl H. Expert.
I'm on the Twitter. I also want to throw out, just to continue on my recommend here, that
Stop it!
Go back, and another great Scott Adkins movie is Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning, which is kind of the that is actually the 2 DTV Universal Soldier sequels they made in the 2011, 2012 are really, really good.
They're both back.
He's good. No, they really are. They made a bunch of shitty sequels in the 90s, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren both came back to make two more sequels. The first one is Universal Soldier
Regeneration,
and then the second one is Day of Reckoning, and they're both absolutely worth watching.
Yeah, what do you think? Would he be a good Batman?
Yes. Oh, he would have been a fantastic Batman.
I've never seen this guy before.
I think so.
Oh, you will. Did you know in Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning, his name was John? And then in Zero Dark 30 that same year, his name was John.
Did you know that my brother's name is John?
What? Kit McDermott. Dermot Mulroney. So if you want to talk Scott Adkins, email the show, predatorminute@gmail.com. If you want to rank your favorite Scott Adkins performances based on the name John, hit up Twitter at Predator Minute.
The first 3 in your list will be Avengement.
And then see it again. See it in Spanish. Espanol. Avengement.
Okay.
You can also continue the conversation on Predator Minute Listeners Palapa on Facebook. For Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And this has been Aaron Zabriskie.
That's our guest, Aaron Zabriskie, just to remind you. Until next time.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Did the same thing to Jim Hopper.
I think this whole Predator team should take some of those benzo, whatever they are called.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
¿Qué pasó, mujer? Mujer, ¿qué pasó? ¿Qué fue lo que viste? ¿Quién fue? Dime, mujer. ¿Quién fue? Dime.
La selva se lo llevó.
What?
No sé, no estoy segura, no sé.
She says the jungle. It just came alive and took him.
Bullshit!
Okay?